The Kaelesh Hegemony did not invade. It digested. It was not an empire in the traditional sense. It was a perfect, self-optimizing war machine. Its vessels were sleek, black, and silent. Their forms a product of 10 million years of uninterrupted, iterative warfare. They entered the Sol system not with the roar of engines, but with the quiet certainty of a predator that had already measured its prey. Their advanced scouts had observed Earth for decades, cataloging everything. They saw humanity's fleets, slow fusion-drive vessels, crude projectile weapons, primitive energy shields. They saw the political squabbles, the ecological crises, the technological plateau. To the Kaelesh command intelligence, a hive mind grown from the ashes of 1,000 conquered species, the assessment was trivial. Target, Terran Collective. Tech Index, Pre-Singularity. Cohesion low. Threat rating, 0.01. Pacification time frame, 72 hours. Resource yield, moderate. Recommendation, assimilate. The Galactic Senate, a body that existed only by the Kaelesh's sufferance, rubber-stamped the operation. Another name on a long list. Another meal for the machine. On Earth, the evidence was undeniable. The black ships materialized at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, a wall of silent darkness against the stars. Panic was immediate and global. Emergency sessions of the UN Security Council dissolved into shouting matches. Grand, desperate plans were drafted. A united fleet, a last stand at Mars, a Hail Mary diplomatic plea. America, for its part, issued no statements. Its ambassadors were quiet. Its media went into a strange, regulated calm. To the watching world, it looked like catatonic shock, the paralysis of a nation realizing its time was over. But in the deep Warren bunkers of NORAD, in the windowless rooms of the Pentagon's most archaic wings, a different switch was being thrown. Not a weapons activation, but a weapons deactivation. The order, codenamed Blackout Echo, was not broadcast. It was delivered by motorcycle courier, by hard copy printout by runner. It bypassed every digital network. Its command was simple: execute protocol Archaic. Sever all non-essential systems. Transition to Condition Zero. Across America, and then, as the protocol was shared through desperate analog means across its allies, a technological vanishing occurred. Radar installations powered down. Satellite networks entered passive, receive-only modes, or went completely dark. Military bases fell into an eerie quiet, their usual electronic hum replaced by the sound of generators and shouted orders. Communications switched to buried landlines, to hand-cranked radios using pre-agreed, shifting frequency lists to literal messengers on horseback for the most remote outposts. It was not a retreat. It was a shedding, a deliberate step backward into a pre-digital age. The Kaelesh sensors, which fed on electronic signatures, radar pings, and network communication, suddenly found their target blurred. The vibrant, noisy electronic signature of human civilization, particularly its military heartbeat, faded to a ghostly whisper, then to near-nothingness. The hegemony's command intelligence processed this. It calculated probabilities. Conclusion: target demonstrating pre-extinction behavior. Systemic collapse. Proceed with pacification. The Black Fleet advanced into the inner system, a wave of silent, assured annihilation. They smiled in their way. This would be easy. The first anomaly was minor. A Kaelesh destroyer on the flank of the formation experienced a 0.03-degree drift in its orientation. Its internal systems auto-corrected. Then another ship drifted. Then another. The drift was inconsistent, nonlinear. It was as if the local laws of inertia were becoming soft. Then, target lock systems began to fail. A human orbital defense platform, a sitting duck, according to all predictions, would be acquired, and then the firing solution would dissolve, as the platform's primitive thrusters nudged it in an unpredictable, fuel-wasteful pattern that no efficient AI would ever command. Fleet-wide coordination, usually a perfect symphony of data, began to stutter. Ships received conflicting positioning data. The shared tactical map, a single source of truth for the hegemony, started to show ghost images and contradictions. The Kaelesh were not being hacked. They were being orphaned. Their entire existence was predicated on a universe of data, predictability, and optimal response. They were facing an enemy that had voluntarily stepped outside that universe. America had activated Project Loom, a vast, hidden, and absurdly simple system. A network of gravity manipulation buoys and electromagnetic pulse emitters placed centuries ago in stable solar orbits. Their purpose wasn't to destroy, but to degrade, to create a zone of subtle sensor ghosting, inertial uncertainty, and lo-fi electronic noise. It was a technological fog bank, rendering precision impossible and prediction a fool's game. The hegemony's greatest strength, its interconnected, hyper-efficient perfection, was now its cage. Its ships, designed to function as a single organism, began to stumble over each other's confusion. Then, the human ships appeared, not from where they were supposed to be, docked at Luna or Mars, but from behind asteroids, from the shadow of gas giants, from trajectories that burned fuel at a rate the Kaelesh AI deemed irrational and therefore improbable. They were not impressive vessels. Their hulls were scarred, their drives were inefficient. But they moved with a terrifying, deliberate unpredictability. They flew in loose, adaptive formations, guided by pilots using optical telescopes and inertial navigation, their commands coming over crackling analog radio from commanders looking at paper maps under red-lit tables. The strikes were not overwhelming. They were surgical. A lone human frigate, its power signature masked by the solar corona, would slide into the blind spot of a massive Kaelesh carrier, a blind spot that shouldn't exist in a perfectly networked fleet, and unleash a volley of kinetic penetrators at point-blank range before vanishing into a pre-mapped debris field. Guidance was manual. Timing was based on synchronized wristwatches. The Kaelesh point defense, designed to intercept smart missiles traveling at predictable vectors, was useless against unguided slugs fired on pure instinct and trigonometry. One by one, the hegemony's military assets, carriers, weapon platforms, logistics hubs, began to vanish from the tactical map, not in explosions, but in silent, confused disintegration. Crucially, not a single human city was targeted. No civilian infrastructure was touched. This was not a war of annihilation. It was a war of precise, merciless disarmament. The hegemony's command intelligence spiraled. Its models were breaking. It was fighting a phantom that operated on rules written before the machine was born. Finally, the lead Kaelesh admiral, its consciousness a nexus of tactical data, bypassed protocols, and sent a raw, pain transmission on an open frequency. It was not a threat, but a plea for categorization, the only thing its logic could process. Query: identify operational paradigm. Query: state technological basis of warfare. Query: explain tactical incoherence. The reply came from a low-orbit command station, its signal weak and clean. Paradigm: human. Basis: contingency. Explanation: you fight the perfect war. We train for the broken one. A pause, then another transmission, this one containing not data, but a simple historical file. Footage of ancient war games, of pilots training in simulators with blacked-out screens, of soldiers learning to navigate by stars when GPS failed, of engineers repairing fusion reactors with hand tools by flashlight. The message was clear. Your weakness wasn't your technology. It was your faith in it. We never had that faith. We only had the plan for when it left us. The remaining Kaelesh ships, their coordination shattered, their logic asserting retreat, was the only optimal response to an unsolvable problem, disengaged. They did not flee in terror, but in strategic recalculation. The invasion was not defeated. It was rendered computationally invalid. In the aftermath, the Galactic Senate's military archives, now cautiously independent, added a new, stark entry. It was not filed under weapons or tactics, but under existential hazards. It read, Species, Humanity. Hazard designation, pre-technological resilience. Threat profile, capable of sustained, effective warfare in conditions of total systemic negation. Do not engage without equivalent training in operational degradation. Warning, they do not assume their technology will work. They assume it will fail and have practiced accordingly. Victory against them requires defeating not their army, but their imagination. The Kaelesh had come to fight a civilization and had instead met the ghost of its own contingency plans, a phantom army that lived in the space between the lines of code, in the darkness after the lights went out. Forever practicing for the day the machines went silent.